Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Phase 3 of the side-scrolling beat-em-up project, Player Setup. In this video, we're going to make an implementation plan for how we're going to get our character on screen instead of having that white box. Now, we're just going to have him standing there. He'll be bouncing on the spot, but his arms are up and he's ready to kick some ass. After we've got that coded in, we'll be looking at how we can make him walk around the screen and jump. But first things first, we've got to get our character into his ready stance. So to do that, we're going to need two textures in our Game 1 class. Game 1. We need to load up a public static texture 2D for our sprite sheet, which we'll call character attacks. And we'll need one more, our public static texture 2D for our sprite of a, what are we going to call this one? Let's just call it character shadow. There we go. Now, what are these two textures? Let's look at the character attacks one. Here we go. It's all the different attacks that our character can do. It's missing one. It doesn't have the jump kick on here. The jump kick, I should say. That's on our other one, but we'll be looking at that one in the next video. Here we've got up the top a idle animation, so he's just bouncing on the spot, arms up, ready to kick some ass. The next one down is the walking. So the walking takes up 2 lines. The next line would be the first attack, and you can see it punches and it recovers, or you can press attack again and that'll continue the animation down here onto the second one where it'll do a second hit on the other hand and then it can recover, or if you press attack again it'll do the third attack where it does a nice spinning heel kick smack bang into your face, which would hurt a little bit, and in case of the enemy it'll knock them over. And then underneath that we've got the throwing of the knife. So that's that one there, and our next one that we need is the shadow. If you look at the white boxes, if you just run that project again, there's no real way of telling that it's in the world, and if we have our animations here without having some kind of shadow from the light source, it does look a little strange, so adding that in helps give the character a bit more presence in the scene, and we'll take a look at that just when we get it all coded in the next video. What else do we need here? Well, that's our Game 1 done, so let's look at our actor class. We need to add in a few things there. We'll just put a nice little line to finish you off and put actor down. Whoops, too far. There we go. In our actor class, we're going to need to add in a frame rate, which is going to be public static float called frame rate. And we're going to equal this one to 1f divided by 12f, which is going to give us 12 frames per second. That's the timing that our animation is going to be running off. Now, our shadow is going to, if you look at the shadow graphic actually, it's pitch black, and that's going to be pretty harsh in our scene, so we're going to add in a const of byte, and we'll call this one shadow opacity. Opacity. And I'm going to set that one to 30. So that's going to give us a 30%. Well, it's only going to give it 30% transparency. What else do we need to add in on our actor? We need to have an origin. So vector 2, we'll call this one origin shadow. And where do we want that one to be? Well, let's just write it out here. Game1.spr. I'm just going to write character shadow dot width divided by 2, but we don't want it smack bang in the middle of the texture. We want it at game1.spr character shadow dot height. Let's draw a little box. That's right, I partially cheated with the shift key. We don't want it here in the center. No, we're going to have everything drawn from across halfway and then down the very bottom of it. So our origin is going to be here at the center, lowest center of the texture itself. And the same thing's going to happen in our player class with its origin, which we'll leave for just a moment until we get into the next video. Anything else we're going to need to add in onto our actor? No, I can't think so. So let's run a let me just rephrase that. Let's make ourselves a constructor, if I can catch my words properly, which is public actor. We know it takes in a few things, we're not changing anything there. All we're going to do is set the origin. Or let's say origin shadow. Nothing else is done inside there. Or we're not adding anything else, I should say. Now onto our draw call. Public void draw. Taking in sprite batch. All we're going to do now is draw shadow. It's not going to draw the actual character, it's just doing the shadow. And that is it for our actor class. So let's go and get rid of you and bring up a new whiteboard page and look at our player class. Okay, inside our player class, we're going to need to have an enum for player state. We're going to be adding to this one as we go throughout all the videos, but for now, the only state we're going to need is idle. It's just sitting there, waiting for some kind of input from the character, or from the player, and in that time, it just bounces on the spot, arms up. Now we're going to need to add in some a region here, so I'm going to make a region for draw size constants. Again, we're only going to need 2 here, but we'll be adding onto these as we go because there's a lot of animations to get through, and they've all got different draw sizes. So the first one is const int draw HEIGHT normal, and that is equal to 165 pixels. Then we're going to need another constant called draw width idle, and that is equal to 116. And we'll end off our region for now. So let's look at our character sprite sheet again. As you can see, they're all a uniform height tall, so they are all 165 pixels. 165, 165, 165, 165. I could keep going, but you can get the idea. Now, if you look at all of our different animations, they've all got different widths to them. So this one here is pretty small. It's just got from, let's zoom in on it. It just goes from the tip of the foot to the tip of the fist. Tip of the foot, tip of the fist, tip of the foot, tip of the fist. And that's that one there. But if you look at the next one here, he's got all this white space there because it's not needed. This is on the walking one. It's got lots of empty space there, but his fist goes much further than where his... Actually, no, it doesn't really, does it? It kind of matches up okay. Well, bad example, but let's look at the next one here. It goes a little further. It's pointing out a lot further. It's pointing out a lot further now. There we go. Ooh, here's a good one. It's got lots of empty space on the sides, and we don't really know where the center is. Well, our draw width takes care of all that. It knows exactly how big our frame is going to be. And then we've got our punches. You can see it gets even longer than what we had for our walking. Our punch 2 is pretty similar. Then our punch, or our attack 3, the kick, it goes much wider than the idle one does. So if we were to use that 116 draw width all over the place, we'd be skipping off bits of the animation in all of these animations. That would make this one here look pretty funky. We might actually do that just for the fun of it later on. So let's go back here. So that's what our draw size constants are. We'll be adding lots of those through as we get through all of the animations. What else are we going to need inside our player? Our player is also going to need lots of details to take care of its texture and its draw area. So let's put in here texture details. What are we going to need? We need to know which texture to draw. So texture 2D, called texture. Why do we want this one here? If we look at this, our character sheet again, this is just the attacks, character attacks. Where's the jump animation, which we'll be looking at? What about if you get hit and you fall over, or you need to get back up? There's lots of other animations that we need to do as well. If you want to pick up one of those items that are on the ground, they're all more animations, and they're all on a separate sprite sheet. So we need to know which of the sprite sheets we're currently drawing. We need to have a vector 2 for our character's origin. Which is going to be done in the same way as our shadow. So if we just pretend this is a little frame here, a little draw area, got ourselves a little stick man who's ready to fight. Oh, he's beefy shoulder man. I wouldn't want to fight him, but then he does have a pretty small head, so maybe he can't think properly. But if we look at our origin, we're going to want it to be drawn from the center of the base of the draw area. So 0, 0 is here, halfway across, and down the entire thing again. That way we've got our actor and our shadows both drawing from the same position, using the same kind of origin spot, or the same reference origin, or the same reference position, and their origins are going to make sure it's all drawn together, so his shadow is going to be drawn just there. Alright, and that'll make that one look pretty cool. What else are we going to need for our texture details? Well, we need to know our draw area, which we're going to be doing, so rectangle, draw area, and we need a way to define our draw area every single frame if we need to, which we do. So we'll put int draw width and int draw height, height. We'll need to have an int for frame x and int frame y. Finally, we will need to have a float for current frame time. So we know how we've gone over our time for this frame. Yes, we have. Time to go ahead and move on to the next one, which would be increasing our X frame so that we draw the next frame in the animation, or if we're in the case of walking or doing one of those super attacks, then we're going to need to move down to the next Y value as well. Righty-o, so let's look at our player's constructor. Not changing anything it takes in, but what it does do is it's now going to call a method which we're going to make in just a second called reset idle graphic. Which takes in nothing. Let's take a look at what reset idle graphic is. So private void reset idle graphic. What this does is resets all of these things here, all of these values, our in for our player state and our texture details. Good point there, in player state. I never put in a reference to us taking care of it. So let's put one more in. Public static, whoops, not capital. Player state, which we're just going to call state. Sorry, I should have written that back up here before texture details, but I forgot about it. So, our player state is just going to be taking care of which state we're going to be looking at, or our character is currently in. Which, in our case, there is only one for idle. There's going to be more and more and more added in as we go. Same with our draw size constants. So down here into our reset idle graphic, what do? Well, we set our state back to idle. and reset the draw area. That just looks horrible. That's much better. Someone's probably out there thinking, no, it's not, still pretty illegible. I say what I write. There we go. Okay, so our idle graphic is here up the top, our idle animation, I did say. So if we finish off the punch, let's look at this one. When we finish off the punch, boom, what do? Go back to our idle graphic. When we finish off our second punch, we go back to our idle graphic. After we've thrown the knife, we go back to our idle graphic. Same with the other animations. When you get knocked down and you get back up, you are standing in the idle graphic. So using this reset idle graphic, we can just reset everything and reset our current our frame time as well. That's going to slap us all straight back onto the idle animation. So let's finish you off there. Let's look at our update call. Update, which takes in game time. We're going to set up a switch based off state, and all we're going to add into it for now is case player state dot idle, and it's going to call a method called move and pass it game time and break. That's all our update's going to be doing for now. Everything else that's in there is going to be removed and put into move. So let's look at what our move call does. Back up to the top. We can make a new one and hide you. Radio. So we have a private void move, taking in game time. All this one does for now is called animate idle and passes it game time. We're going to add a lot more into move. That's where it moves the character and decides if it's going to be drawing the idle animation or if it's drawing the walking animation. It moves the actual character around the screen, it constrains it onto the play area, it sets the layer depth, it does all of that, but for now it doesn't need to. We'll be doing that in the next section. What else do we need here? Well, let's look at our animate idle method anyway. So private void animate idle IDLE, yes, there we go. And it takes in game time, updates current frame time, checks if we've gone over the animation time or the frame rate. If we have, goes to the next frame and decides which of the draw areas or characters to draw, which of the character frames to draw, I should say. That one, that one, that one, that one, that one, or all of them. In fact, it'll never pick all of them because that would be strange having all of them drawn. So that is what that one there does. Let's write pick draw area. And that's all it'll do there. And that should be everything. Oh, no, wait, we forgot our draw call. Public void draw sprite batch. And what does it do? Draws character. Rightio. Now that should be everything, I believe. So let's finish this one on and go into Visual Studio. See you there, guys.